one thing that runs right through the development of this project is anybody who comes into contact with the script is hooked, and they've got a real passion for it, and that's why we got it made. That's the only reason we got it made.
And also that kind of came to pass through every level of development that we started talking to, sales agents and potential directors and others that might come along and be, part of the journey. That they all got it straight away, and that's really what you need in a film. You need something that's kind of a couple of lines that people can just tune into, and we had it with, an old man uses his free bus pass to travel from John O'Groats to Land's End.
It doesn't go how it's supposed to go, a bit like life. Life never goes the way it's supposed to go. In your ideal way, he plans this to the nth degree. He's got his maps, he's got his bus routes, he's got his bus stops, he's got his B&Bs. Suffice it to say, it doesn't go to plan.
You always need a little bit of luck every twist and turn trying to put these things together. And it turned out that we were talking about this story to a friend of ours, Kellen Jones, who's an actor and a screenwriter and a producer. And he said, well, I've just worked on an Eddie Izzard film with someone called Gillies McKinnon, and he might just go for this. And he made that introduction, and as it turns out, long story short, Gillies McKinnon was absolutely the right person to tell this story.
Once we'd had the introduction to Gillies through Kellen, we sent him a paragraph on the film, and his instant response was, this sounds really good, can I read it? He read the script in a couple of days. This was July 2016. He read it really quickly. We met up in London with Gillies, and straight away we chimed. His reaction to the script was really well thought through, very sympathetic. He got the project.
I loved the idea of a road movie, which the subject of the road movie was being an old man. That was clear to me from the very, very beginning, from the first time I read the script, that this was a man who was about to have an experience, a life-enhancing experience at the end of his life, really. But he wasn't thinking about that. It came to him as a surprise and as one event happens after another, he just gets drawn in.
Well, I always thought that Tom was a kind of guy that was never self-indulgent. You get the feeling that when they went up to John O'Groats from Land's End, they got stuck in locally, they got involved with the community. His wife, brilliantly played by Phyllis, becomes a teacher. They integrate themselves into the community. He works in the local estate as a mechanic. I always got the feeling that he was a practical man. He was the sort of man that you could go to and say, Tom, I've got this problem, could you help me? He'd be able to fix your shelf, do something for your garden. Like a lot of people who are displaced, when they move to a community, they often try that extra yard. There is a sense of someone who's really made the best of the cards have been dealt to him and his wife in their life. They've really tried their hardest to live with this thing that's happened to them.
The story came about because we were having a Sunday roast with my dad and my father-in-law, Tom and Joe, who were great mates, and they were speculating on where they'd travel on their OAP bus passes. So I sneaked off for 5 minutes, well, a minute, out to my shed and just scribbled down old men bus passes. Found that bit of paper a few weeks later and started thinking, what could that be? What could the story be?
It's a beautiful script, and it portrays these two elderly people in such a beautiful way. It's got such heart and warmth. And you know how everybody's talking these days, especially, politicians behaving the way they are and people requesting kindness, more kindness and heart in life. And it's much easier to do than not. So why wouldn't you be nice? It's nice to be nice, but it's really important. And I think this absolutely encapsulates that and brings the good out in people. Well, let's hope it does.
The film is about people who, in a noble sense, have run away. And my character entire life almost has led up to being able to go back and to take away that running away, to go back, to face up to something that happened down there, and to kneel before that tragedy and to say a proper farewell. The noblest people and the most normal people, which I've always loved about drama like this, it's not about the nobility of kings and queens. It's not about the bravery of people in battle. This is about the bravery and the sacrifice of people who live a very ordinary, quiet life and then eventually have to face up to something that has been bothering them. And many people go to their grave without that.
You know, doing a project like this, which is not specifically Scottish, although, of course, Gillis is and I am, and it's set there, but it doesn't seem, it seems like a worldwide theme of ageing, love, loss, and it's a theme which anybody can relate to from no matter where they are in the world. But it's lovely that it was somehow had its heart in Scotland.
When Tim arrived in Glasgow, I'm asking myself the question, how does a 61 or 62-year-old man become a man in his late 80s? So we had a very good makeup person, Christine Cant, and she found a way of addressing the age visually. And the rest of it was done with Tim by some peculiar thing he did with balance in his body. He showed it to me that very first morning he arrived in Glasgow. And I was talking, one minute I was talking to a 61-year-old, and the next minute I was looking at a really old man, you know?
Well, I'm here to tell you I didn't have to have much makeup. I mean, we're a brilliant makeup artist called Christine Cant, who's done everything from French and Saunders to movies to... I first worked with her 30-odd years ago in Pakistan on a TV. So she's done everything. So, but what she does is something very subtle. And I discussed it with her, and as I did with Gillis, that it wasn't about prosthetics, it was about physicality, about what you do. I mean, you get to a certain age where, you know, you're old anyway, so there's different degrees of it, and a lot of it is to do with how it affects you from the inside, and what it does to your body, what it does to your delivery, what it does to your face from the inside. So as to whether I've achieved that, I don't know. But that is what I worked on from, as I try and always do it, from the inside out rather than the other way around.
Now when you look at the film, there is one scene where Tim appears to be his real age. And because he's, I think, so convincing as this old man, you think, my God, how did they get him to look so young? If you know what I mean. You get so bought into this character. So working with Tim for me was great fun. I mean, I worked with many actors over a long space of time and some great actors, but I'm not sure I ever talked to an actor as much. Now, all of that was great because he has certain kind of preoccupations as an actor, Tim, you know, props and things. He's got to get it all sorted in his head. But once he has, I mean, he was going on there and shooting in 1 and 2 takes quite often because our schedule required that. And without any fuss at all, because all this work and all this talk seemed to have gotten to a point, set him free.
My relationship with Gillies throughout the whole process was very rewarding. He was a very supportive director. I was fully prepared for a point at which I just handed it over and it became his baby film. I'm not, you know, I know that film is a director's medium and I expected to just at some point be serving what his vision of the story was. But he kept me involved in where he wanted to take it.
I know Joe had never made a feature, and I'd never seen Holby City, where he'd been working for years. none of that really matters, you know. I mean, basically, I come up to Liverpool and Joe and I went out for a drink, and we had quite a few drinks actually that first night. And I just found him, you know, totally ego-free and cooperative and creative writer. And that's perfect. That's what a director wants, you know. Somebody who you can explain a problem to, you know, because you've got to go out and you've got to deal with this. He understands the problem and he addresses the problem. I mean, this is a dream writer.
Taking my family onto the set was just an amazing experience, really. And we went up the day they were shooting the final scene of the film, which was extra special. And to have my dad there, especially as it's, you know, the character's named for him, and they all just had a ball. My dad's a real techno type of person, so he loves his kit. He's an electrician by trade, so he was just eyes on stalks watching everything put together, and he found it all fascinating.
I like to come to a composer with a thought, you know, like a piece of music or some kind of a thought to just introduce with the composer. If the composer accepts that and takes it, I'm usually really pleased because it's got something to do with my own feeling about the mood of the film. Nick was suggested to me, and, you know, often when that happens, you go like, oh, okay, let's see. But I met him and he was incredibly open, incredibly, you know, a great appetite for the film and full of great ideas. And I suggested some things to him just to take away. And I think he did take the seeds of these things and he developed them. But then again, he brings his own, you know, his own kind of feeling into the film. Well, often when you're making a film, somebody will come to you and say, "This book I've written," and give it to you, or, you know, be something else. But in this case, the guy who was organising the transport, Jim Agnew, said, "I've got a granddaughter, you know, and she records songs," and he gave me some background to it, which was interesting. She's only 16. Could you listen to them? And I said, "Okay, Jim, fine, send them on." Anyway, I sent them on. I just loved these songs. And I sent them down to our editor, and she loved the songs, and she put them into the film. And then I thought, well, maybe it's just her and me who love these songs, you know. But I began to learn that almost everybody who listened did. And when I brought Tim into the cutting room, he's an executive on the film, about halfway through the cut, and he just loved the songs. And of course, that influences me a lot because as the person who walks in the shoes of the character, you know, he's really emotionally tuned in. So I began to think, this is one of these strange and wonderful things that happens, because Caitlin apparently sits in her bedroom and records these songs with her guitar. And yet somehow there's a sort of something that just catches a mood for the film.
I wanna know you're near, not on a screen that sits by my computer desk and comforts me. 'Cause I wanna see you smile, even if it only lasts a day or two. That would make up my whole life.